Hello, Bellery.
Thanks. Hello.
Okay, let me start the share screen. And today I am also going to share screen. Come on. Yeah. This one. Last time we talked about the death of the mammal, the dinosaurs, and it's only after the death of the dinosaurs that allow mammals to occupy the ecological niches that was previously occupied by the dinosaurs. So this video will show you about how mammals survived. So let's play this. Come on.
It was the end of one world and the beginning of another. 66 million years ago, an asteroid more than 6 miles wide struck the Earth, triggering a mass extinction.
It wipes out all the large dinosaurs. These animals that have dominated the landscape for the last 180 million years.
Plants also experience a big extinction.
60 to 80% of birds go extinct, amphibians. For the most part, it just wipes the slate clean.
From the ruins of a devastated planet, a new world would arise in which mammals dominate instead of dinosaurs. But how did mammals seize the moment? How did life even recover from the catastrophe?
That's what I'm interested in. How long did it take for ecosystems to recover? For habitats to reform? 1,000 years? 1,000,000 years?
The answers have been difficult to find. But now, a breakthrough in Colorado. A remarkable new trove of fossils is starting to reveal how the modern world began.
Gotta be the skull.
A big skull.
The asteroid impact blasted a massive amount of material into the atmosphere. Some of it rained down and triggered wildfires across the globe. Debris, soot, and an enormous plume of vaporized rock blocked out the sun. Global temperatures plunged by as much as 20 degrees Celsius.
So you're talking about immediate global winter that would have cooled the environment and really stopped basic production of the materials that we needed for life. Things like photosynthesis would have been really shut off immediately.
The blackout lasted for years. Food chains collapsed, wiping out the dinosaurs and about 3/4 of all plant and animal species. The animals that survived tended to be small and lived in the water or burrowed underground.
And so if we want to understand the world today, if we want to understand the organisms and the diversity of life on the planet today, we really need to be able to draw back all the way back to that event 66 million years ago and to that critical period right after that event that completely shaped what life is going to look like today.
Over time, the atmosphere cleared. Sunshine and warmth returned to the planet and life began to recover. But to understand how, scientists have to find fossils of the right age. Around the world, a thin clay line contains the fallout from the asteroid and marks the boundary between life before the impact and life after it. In a place called Corral Bluffs, near Denver, Colorado, 400 feet of rock lie above the boundary. It was deposited in the first 1 million years after the mass extinction. That makes it a promising location for scientists to try to trace the recovery of life.
At Corral Bluffs, my team and I are trying to reconstruct the ecosystem right after dinosaurs went extinct at 66 million years ago. Corral Bluffs preserves the first 1 million years of time after the extinction of the dinosaurs. So we are looking for things like mammals, turtles, crocodiles, birds, and plants, and trying to combine all that into the reconstruction of the environment.
One way scientists can reconstruct the plant community is by pulverizing rocks and looking at them under a microscope. The sediment contains thousands of fossilized spores and pollen.
Right after the boundary, there's this explosion of fungal spores. The thing is that fungus grows on things that are dead, so most of the world must have been rotting.
But then, above the fungus, signs of renewal.
Following immediately on top of the fungal world, we see a spike in fern spores. And that shows a world blanketed in ferns that probably lasted a few thousand years.
Ferns are better able to germinate in denuded landscapes than other plants. They're often the first plants to reappear after forest fires and volcano eruptions. Next, in rock layers above the ferns, scientists see signs of new plant life.
One of the big surprises was this incredible abundance of palm fronds. Huge, beautiful palm fronds. They're so dominant, it feels like the world is all palms.
By 300,000 years after the extinction, a forest canopy has returned. Underneath, plant diversity is rebounding. The rich vegetation provides food and new potential habitats for animals. But animal fossils are hard to find here, and anywhere else from this time period.
Big layers here, huh? When you're out looking for fossils, it's all about search image. And the first search image you're taught as a paleontologist is to look for bone, look for the teeth, look for the actual stuff.
But the actual fossils were elusive. The team found almost no trace of mammals.
Oh, I can see it from
You
here.
can see it, yeah.
Until volunteer Sharon Melito explored these bluffs.
I was an elementary teacher for 30 years, and while I was teaching, I had the opportunity to go up to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science at night and take their paleontology certification courses. So being certified by the museum allowed me to participate in all kinds of field experiences with the museum. This is a piece of a crocodile. It's an osteoderm. So one day I was walking along in an area I'd been many times before, and I saw this white round rock sitting there on kind of its own little pedestal. And I picked it up and looked at it, and as soon as I looked at it, I saw these teeth that were just smiling out at me. And I just almost had a heart attack.
Sharon had found a rare treasure, a mammal jaw.
And I was absolutely astonished. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen a mammal from this time period this complete. And I started thinking to myself, well, if there's this complete of a skull here, there's gotta be more.
The fossil had been found inside a type of rock called a concretion. Sometimes concretions form around organic material, like bone. Under the right conditions, concretions can protect a fossil inside for millions of years. Spurred on by Sharon's find, the team returned to Corral Bluffs to search for concretions.
We're gonna systematically get all of this. I have this new search image in mind, and I see this concretion on the ground. The very first one that I pick up, and I crack it, and it was amazing. I just found a mammal skull. And wasn't 5 minutes later that Ian brings a concretion to me. And sure enough, it has a skull inside of it. And then Sharon, she brings a concretion over to me, and sure enough, there was another skull. And so within a 5-10 minute interval, we found 5 or 6 mammal skulls. You can very clearly see the cross section of a tooth here and another tooth here. This is the snout. If we look on the side here, we can see a bunch of teeth here, 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 and here. This is one of the most complete Paleocene mammal skulls ever found, right here. Sharon, come have a look. Look at that.
Oh,
The whole tooth row. Yep. Oh man, I am over the moon. I think this is one of the biggest discoveries that I've ever been a part of in my entire life. So, I mean, I'm beyond excited. What's next?
It was crazy the way it happened. I mean, you could go your entire career as a mammal paleontologist and not find a skull from this time period. That's how rare they are.
In the thrilling months that followed, the team discovered dozens of mammal fossils, as well as crocodile and turtle fossils. The spectacular collection is the world's largest, best preserved group of early mammal fossils from this time period. The discoveries reveal how plants and animals evolved together. For example, this mammal species lived about 300,000 years after the asteroid strike. The teeth in the front of its mouth would have been good at tearing into flesh. The flatter back teeth were for grinding greenery.
So one of the things that we learned just with this particular animal is that it ate both meat as well as plants. Being a generalist in terms of diet is something that we see in many animals in the early aftermath of the KT extinction.
Higher up the cliff, Tyler found this fossil of a large beaver-like creature that lived about 700,000 years into the recovery. It had large, flat teeth it probably used on the wider array of leaves and stems now available.
So as the recovery proceeds, you see these bizarre creatures show up on the landscape. And we think it's because they're specializing with new plants that are showing up as well in those ecosystems.
In those original few hundred thousands of years where mammals went from these tiny generalized or insectivorous animals into very quickly starting to take advantage of all these ecosystems and becoming these big plant-eating animals.
The change in size was dramatic. Within just 700,000 years after the mass extinction, and with the dinosaurs gone, some mammal species were now larger than any mammals had ever been in their previous 100 million years on the planet. That explosive growth made the scientists wonder what could have fueled it. An important clue turned up when Ian Miller led a group of students on a fossil hunting expedition to Corral Bluffs.
This one student, her name is Aeon, and she hands me this rock, and she's like, "What's this? Did you get something?"
No.
And so I took it up, looked at it in the light, and lo and behold, it was the middle part of a bean pod.
I found this legume 2 seconds ago from this rock that's sitting in my lap.
Legumes today are things like soybeans, alfalfa, of course, the peas that you eat on the dinner table.
As it turns out, this is the oldest legume ever found.
She just pushed back the fossil record of legumes by 4 million years and made them North American. You brought them home. That's awesome.
It makes me feel special, actually, because I didn't even know what it was at first when I found it.
Aeon's legume was alive right when the size of mammals exploded.
At 700,000 years into the recovery phase, we see the appearance of legumes. And legumes are like these protein bars for the new mammals on the landscape. And we see a whole new class of animal sizes show up at that moment.
The fossils at Corral Bluffs reveal how in just 1 million years, the void left by the dinosaurs was filled by plants and animals evolving hand in hand.
No organism evolves or lives in isolation, right? Everything about them really reflects their interactions with their environment, with other species, even with other individuals in their species.
The period we call the recovery is this important moment where we see this new interplay of life, of the animals and the plants, and they evolve together. And it's really sort of the starting point of the modern world.
Mammals took over a revitalized planet and branched into many groups, one of which eventually produced us. Our roots then go all the way back to the recovery and the dawn of a new age. Our age, the age of mammals.
Okay. So that's the presentation, and we will have discussion now. So let's stop the share.
Okay, I'll start off. It reminds me some of this of Galapagos Islands, where I've been to, and where Charles Darwin did his analysis of the animals. So you see finches, and there's about 6 lots of finches, different but very similar. So, and I think some of the story was that life came from South America, and it could be on a tree branch in a storm and get washed over. And once it's there, they're isolated for a long time to develop their own distinct species. And also you've got the different Gulf currents that come around the islands and make it pleasant for them to live on and to grow. And then all the islands are quite different from one another. So on one of them, it was more recent volcanic, and that had a lizard on there that lived in the heat and the warmth, where it wasn't on the other islands. So you get the differences from island to island. And the animals there, not used to humans, were very friendly. So you could walk right up, not to them or trying to interact with them, but just walking and observing them and walking along a pathway, you kept to that, and they would be right beside it. They wouldn't move away. So they were very, very friendly.
They don't know.
Yeah, quite.
They don't know how dangerous humans are.
No, they haven't learned that. No.
Albert, what
Yes.
happened to the birds?
Some birds do survive, so that becomes the birds today. But obviously, looking at the size of the birds today, there must be some smaller birds that survived and then becomes what it is today.
So you think they were around then?
Sorry?
You think they were around 300,000 years ago after the extinction?
I think so, because they trace back to the dinosaurs. They have a lot of characteristics of the dinosaurs. So yeah,
I have always been taught that there were flying dinosaurs which did survive and which evolved into birds.
Yeah.
Now, that's in contradiction to the film that we've just said that said all dinosaurs were destroyed.
wow.
I don't believe that's so.
Most of the
Does that
dinosaurs
help,
are
Valerie?
dissolved. Yeah, most dinosaurs are destroyed, but not all. There are some survived. Birds is one of them. I think there's another one. I can't remember which one.
Would crocodiles be a survivor from the dinosaur age?
Probably. Because crocodiles live in the water, so as long as they're in the water, they are a bit is safer than those on land. So water becomes a protection at that time. But obviously, there's another big issue is the food chain. They need to eat. And so it depends on what kind of material they eat. If you can survive on some rotten food, etc., rotten plants, then you probably can survive. Well, that leads to us. So next time we'll be looking at what makes human. So we will look at the human characteristics, how we are different from other animals, and then we'll dive into the different characteristics and see how that characteristic developed. So we are now more close to human now. The dinosaur extinction is about 66 million years ago, so we will be far tracked to about 10 million years ago. So that's what we will intend to do next week. But for this week, we know that the death of the dinosaur enable mammals to develop. Otherwise, the dinosaurs will be occupying the ecological niche. So the step that lead to us is mammal, and we need to understand why dinosaurs existed for over 10 million years, still cannot develop the kind of civilization that human can, whereas we existed for, let's say, 10 million years, and we have understand the world so much. So why mammals is able to become intelligent, whereas dinosaurs cannot match us?
Okay. A comment there, Albert. The humans couldn't develop in the age of the dinosaurs. We'd be too much yummy food for them. We'd get eaten out.
Yeah. Mammals were suppressed because mammals were yummy food for the dinosaurs. So when the dinosaurs died, then mammals is able to start propagating, started occupying new ecological niche. So, but the question is still why dinosaurs cannot become intelligent? Why mammals can?
But Albert, has becoming intelligent been a very useful thing, given that we'll probably only last 1 million years and the dinosaurs lasted a lot longer?
Yeah, probably. But the complexity, the more complex an organisms becomes, the narrower the environmental parameters are. So if we want to really be a very, very versatile, we has to be a very low level animal. The more complex it is, the more narrower the ecological niche had to be. So we control our environment to almost a few degrees, like what we are doing now. For example, in my home, we have ducted heating, so our home is controlled within, say, at night maximum drop to about 5 degrees. In the morning, we set it up, go back to about 20 degrees. Any temperature range outside that we feel so uncomfortable, we cannot survive out in sub-zero temperature, for example, without protection. So the more complex we are, the more narrow we becomes in terms of adapting to the ecological environment.
Makes sense, yes.
Did I talk about the tardigrade last time? A very small animals which survive.
Oh yeah, the tardigrade, yes.
Yeah.
And they're still around, you're saying. So
yeah, they are survivors, and obviously they cannot be very large, because they need to survive in very different environment. So again, the more complex it is, the less flexible, and that is the danger. So Wolverine is probably is right. Human may survive for a few million years and then disappear. We kill ourselves.
Do that too well, unfortunately.
Well, at the moment, I think the world is very dangerous.
But if humans don't survive, we will probably leave so many examples of our civilization that may assist other animals which do evolve intelligence, and we'll learn from some of the artifacts that are left.
Well, we don't know. Probably.
Oh, look, of course, it's a theory. I haven't got a time machine. I don't know.
Well, for example, now at the moment we know there's a plastic garbage island in the is that in the Pacific Ocean?
Yes.
Yeah, and it is now becoming evidence that some microbes has already developed ability to eat plastic.
Oh, really? Wow. Very well.
So
sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat that, please?
Well, some microorganisms has developed ability to eat plastics.
Oh, right.
The problem with plastic is we make it non-degradable. But now they are just like in the Carboniferous time when the trees develop their lichens. Is that lichens? That's that the microbes cannot digest. So we have a lot of cold. It took them almost 100 million years to develop the ability to digest wood.
The test is only open for a couple of hours in the morning. I'm just going to go and check. Not answering the phone.
Can't you ring them?
Not answering the phone.
But the
I'm going to go down there and hit that cross.
But you have two instances. You mute one, but the other one is instant mute. One, we are looking at your wall with a lot of pictures, photographs.
What? Oh.
Do you know you have two instances logged in? Yeah. Oh, probably other room. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Valerie. We need that to happen.
So it is in two different rooms. What amazing technology, isn't it?
Too amazing sometimes.
Okay. Any other questions about? Well, maybe we can branch into a little bit.
I just think to finish off, Albert, the fact that some powers that be, when they're sending spaceships off, send some of our information into the nether regions. We don't know what's there. They might be superior to us, and they might all enslave us at some stage.
I don't worry about that because I don't think warp speed traveling is possible.
Yeah.
If you cannot travel fast, if we cannot travel faster than light, then the nearest intelligence might be a couple of thousand light years from here. So by the time they come here, we are all gone. So I don't worry about that.
All right, I won't dream about it tonight.
Because I don't think warp speed traveling is possible. That means traveling higher than the speed of light. Now, given even traveling at higher speed than sound is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
At the moment, the best is, I think, it's about 15 Mach, 50 times the speed of sound.
Yep.
I think that is the current maximum.
Many, many years ago, I used to have a girlfriend who did believe that there was life out there, but I find it difficult to believe. And I think, look, you've summed it up well, Albert. If there is life out there, it's too far away for us to ever have any association with it.
Unless they have started traveling to us many, many thousand years ago.
We'd have to evolve to be a long living creature to make it worthwhile even finding out about it, surely.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, for human, the next object should be the ability to live in our other planets. One Earth is not enough. We need to migrate to another planet.
Really?
Well, unless we start lowering our consumption of natural resources.
And or lowering the population.
Yeah.
You've got to do
I think we'll do a good job of that once we need to.
Well, give women the ability to control their body, our population size will decrease.
Let me add to what I said before, or explain what I said before. When I say there's no life out there, I mean there's no intelligent life. Pardon me. I suspect that there are probably microcosms on Mars and perhaps other planets, but very, very underdeveloped.
Well, I suspect in our ice giants planets there might be life, because life, for us, the life comes from photosynthesis. But life can originate as long as there's an energy gradient. That means there's an energy source and there's a ways for you to sink the energy. Then it is possible to develop lives. So in the last giants, outside is typically very cold, but the inside will be hot because of its size and radioactivities. Obviously, these gas giants is not able to start fusion reaction, but they will have some kind of heat inside, and that heat and the coolness outside give a energy gradient. The energy gradient might evolve some kind of life. Well, that's my guess. But again, it depends on whether there are available carbon there, because we still believe that life depends on carbon. Without carbon.
What's the famous science fiction book of some decades ago where there are intelligent plants which evolved and took over the Earth?
The Triffids.
The Triffids, the Day of the Triffids. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm not. I don't read fictions.
I don't think they took over. They've been horrible.
Oh, very hot.
They're actually cultivated for food, and then they developed life and the ability to move around, so they had to keep chained. And then when there was a big war on, I think, and the parties became very anarchic, the whole world, and the Triffids got loose, and then they started dominating in much the same way as any predator.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There was a science fiction radio program on BBC, which I heard only last week, but it was so off the planet, it was absolutely ridiculous. And that was where there was thinking mud. And the mud tried to take over the Earth and get rid of all the humans. But as I say, it was ludicrous.
Well, for
Won't we do just a good job of getting rid of ourselves through war and consequent famine and disease? I think we'll do a good job of getting rid of ourselves, and then something much more successful will have a go, because humans are a bit of a bad experiment. It's a failed experiment.
well, I think there's
Isn't
a
our
chance.
AI going to take over?
Who?
AI going to take over? We're going to develop the AI, and then they'll just be self-perpetuating or perpetuating.
You've
And
seen
now
what
take
one little virus does. What about when we get a decent virus?
Well,
In
human
the wake
got
of
a
an
chance to
atomic
look
war.
at. We have two kinds of apes: the gorilla and the bonobo. I think if human learns to go the way to bonobo, then we might be safe.
Excuse me, I have to go.
Too many
Okay.
chimpanzees around.
You got to
Bye.
stop breeding.
Cyril, we'll see you.
God. I think the world need to change its gender roles.
Well, women can do some pretty nasty things too.
Yes.
I think you would have to have something put in the water supply that makes almost all people sterile for the species to survive in any way at all.
I'm sure someone's thought about it.
Well, that's what you need to happen, because it's breeding itself to extinction. The extinction won't come from that. It'll come from wars that are caused by too many people.
If you read about the history of the world, though, we've had wars, and every battle, none less than 100,000 have died, and half the population was wiped out during the Middle Ages, and yet we're still overpopulated. So we keep having these things in the last war and all the wars. So I don't even think wars are going to do it.
Look, there is a theory that approximately 500 years, people believe the end of the world is coming. Now, we believe this now round about the year 2000. You go back to the time of Jesus, and the Roman Empire was killing so many people, which is why a number of people believed in Jesus as a Messiah. Not sure about 500 years later. 1,000 years later, you had the Crusades, and people thought that was going to be the end of the world. You had the plague round about the 1500s.
1300.
Well, it was still around in the 1500s, but but approximately every 500 years.
No.
Well, I think society do cycles through different ups and downs, and the only long-term civilization, which is Chinese, survived in the last 4,000 years. And inside this Chinese culture, there is also up and down. And our average life of the dynasties is about 250. Of course, there are some dynasties longer, some shorter, but that is the average, about 250. So you probably met well with your 500, because that's two dynasties.
How long did you say there's been a Chinese civilization?
Depending on how you measure your civilizations, from which point you say it is continuous. So if you will say, if I can still read what is written at that time, that means it is linked via the only artifact which survive is written words. Obviously, the spoken words will change dramatically. So if I meet somebody, let's say 500 years ago, even if he is coming from, say, Cantonese, okay, I probably can't understand what he's saying. because of
Look,
the accent, the different accent, and so forth. For
the
example,
Jewish civilization goes back 4,000 years.
the written form. That means we can read back about
Written form, 3,500 years. The establishment of Jerusalem, the Hebrew coming out of Egypt and settling in the area that is now Israel, brought written language with them from Egypt. Now, they don't have a written civilization, but we now firmly believe that Indigenous Australians, First Nation people, were around and had some sort of a civilization 65,000 years ago.
Yeah. But they don't leave a trace because they are not language, but they haven't developed the written language. So
but we are now finding tools 65,000 years old.
Well, if you look at stone tools, that will be dating back even longer as humans. So it depends on which point you consider as a civilization and which point you consider as a continuous civilization.
Exactly.
So
yes.
if we consider one of the criteria for being human is that you can make tools. But we also know that for example, monkeys learn to use a straw and tear up the straw into a fine hair, something like that, and then stick it into a ant's nest, and then fish out the ants to eat.
Look, there are so many examples. What is a civilization?
Yeah.
Beavers make dams. That's a very sophisticated construction. Of you people, who was in the group last year when I presented a session on the big history of religion? Nobody?
I think Gilbert's there. You're
muted.
No, not Isaac's class, not Albert Isaac's religion class.
No, this was part of Albert Ipps' class, but I made one presentation for you, didn't I, Albert?
Yeah, on religion. Yeah.
One of the things that I brought out in that is that for probably 4 million years, elephants have mourned. There are pictures of elephant funeral processions, elephants burying dead elephants, and so one of the main criteria of a religion, as we know it, is mourning, and we're not the only animals that mourn. Perhaps the one that we know well are dogs, and dogs will mourn for members of their own tribe, whether that happens to be another dog or whether it happens to be a human. And if you Google it in, you'll see images of dogs lying on human tombstones with very pathetic looks on their faces. Interestingly, cats are the opposite. I remember when I gave that talk, somebody piped up and said they used to have 2 cats, and one cat died, and the other cat thought it was the most wonderful thing. She could spread out over the whole of the couch now. She didn't have to share her food bowl with anything else. So there was absolutely no sign of mourning. But with dogs, yes, there definitely is.
I think the two animals that co-evolve with us. Oh no, not only two. Many animals co-evolve us. For example, chicken. Chicken is also co-evolve us.
Is which?
Chicken.
Chicken is what?
Co-evolve with humans.
Oh, yeah. Well, there are so many birds. Look, we've all walked along the street, and birds are now so tame, they do not get out of your way. They know the human is not going to bother them.
Well,
but this is an evolution.
You can't say humans, it's Australian.
Oh, yeah?
Well, there are other area where humans still very dangerous to birds.
Oh, hey, look, you're right. This is an evolution over the last few years.
Yeah.
The bird brain has evolved to the extent. I mean, look, before the white man, for want of a better term, Caucasians, if you like, came to Australia, any time a bird saw a First Nation person, that First Nation person was probably hunting them. And yes, they got out of the way.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah, things have changed. And you know what? This COVID-19 actually makes some rare animals reappear. Yeah, I think that would be a good topic to research. I will try to research.
Yeah, look, animals are certainly changing their habits because of COVID, because there are less humans around, or humans are doing different things. So yes, animals are changing.
Yeah. So
whether it lasts or not is.
I think I will do some research and then see where I can stuck that into. Yeah, interesting. This COVID actually do change. The other example is of course the Chernobyl. Is that Chernobyl?
Yes.
The nuclear
disaster, and because it is no longer livable by humans, animals take over and the plants take over.
And the plants.
So nature is pretty resilient. The problem is we are not. So
no, I think that we're very human-centric in our outlook too, in assuming this so-called civilization is a good thing and that we've got a better life than, say, the hunter-gatherers had in Australia, and they were much more successful at surviving, and than we are with this life we have is very damaging it just trashes the planet and is unsustainable, and of course will spell our doom because you only have to take the power out. I mean, we're about, 9 meals from chaos at any given time. You know, we're very, very vulnerable, very fragile. Take nothing to wipe us out. We're just very human-centric in our outlook, and we think for some reason we're important and matter, which is a very bad thing to think.
Just think what would happen.
We don't matter at all.
Just think what would happen if we turn off all the computers. Would we have gas? Would we have electricity? Would we have conversations with anybody? Where would we be? And if they keep breaking down all the time, and then we put more and more faith in them.
You just have to put poison in our water supply or get rid of the electricity. We'll be in chaos in 3 days. We'll be killing each other in 3 days. We'll die out in 3 weeks. We're not.
Look,
we start connecting each other like animals.
We are doing some ridiculous things because of computers. I collect newspapers, mainly historical headlines and first editions. But what is happening, libraries right across the world are getting rid of their hard copy newspapers and putting everything on computer. Now, if there is some sort of an accident, we will probably lose our computer skills and we won't be able to access this stuff. My late brother was involved with one of the companies which is storing papers from libraries. You've all seen the advertisements, buy a newspaper as a present for somebody from the date of their birth. Now, where do they come from? They're coming from libraries, and we're losing all these hard copy newspapers, and probably the same thing is happening with books.
I'm converting all my books into electronic copies.
Are you? Oh, yeah.
No, I can't store that much books, so I'm getting rid of the books by scanning them and then converting them into electronic copies. And I also collect.
You've got a few books behind you there. I've got a few books over here.
I want to get that gone. I have so many ebooks that I can't read if I have another million lives.
But look, if you're going to get rid of them,
give it to you.
Put them into an auction where they will go to somebody who appreciates them.
But the problem is that
don't just destroy them, whatever you do.
But the problem is I need to cut open the book in order to scan them effectively. Because I'm going them through. If I scan it page by page, it is only that quick, about 3 seconds per page. But if I cut off the spine, is it called spine?
Yeah.
And then I can feed them through my scanner. That will be about 3 per second.
Albert, you're horrifying me.
Well, I can. If you like, after cutting open, I can give you all the sheets of papers. Well,
I mean, obviously, I collect books on subjects that interest me, but no, look, yeah, look, I don't know whether I should say this or not, but I'm going to. But in some respects, not only you, but everybody who does get rid of books in that manner, there is a similarity with the Nazis who.
Let me put in a suggestion. Anybody want to clear up the books, call Albert Isaacs and send it to Isaacs.
Well, Albert would put you. I would put you in touch with auction houses which get rid of books and that sort of thing, and have good client lists of people who are interested in this stuff.
I just get rid of about 30 years of National Geographics.
Oh, goodness. Well, where did you get rid of them?
Somebody in UVA accepted this and then used it in some retirement homes for them to read. So I'm more than happy.
So they're not destroyed.
They are not destroyed.
Let me mention names. Charles Leski Auctions, Leski. If you Google in their website, they're a good place to get rid of all this sort of material.
Okay.
I must admit that for some years I was a value for Charles, but that's got nothing to do with it, except that it allows me to know just how they operate and the size of their customer list.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, thanks for this one. Let's move to the next one, the China Today. China Today, we'll be talking about the wind energy in China. Okay, so we'll move over there. Okay, bye now for this one.
Do we leave now?
Yep.
Thank you, Albert.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert.
Thank you.
Excellent.